Welcome back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. My name is Hrabchak. On today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down all three of Canada's round-robin games at the Four Nations Face-Off Tournament. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to preview the championship game between Canada and the USA. Should be a great game on Thursday. But let's dive into Canada's three games of the tournament starting on Wednesday against Sweden. Canada and Sweden kicked off the tournament in Montreal on Wednesday night, and this game absolutely delivered. It was a 4-3 overtime win for Canada. Mitch Marner got the OT winner. Sidney Crosby had 3 assists. He was questionable even coming into the tournament whether or not he would play, so for him to play in this first game and look like his usual self was great news for Canada, and plenty of their best players had great games as well. This game had plenty of swings. Canada took a 2-0 lead in the first period, a 3-1 lead into the final frame, and then Sweden tied it up, taking it to overtime where, like I said before, Mitch Marner ended it. But the expected goals in this game, Canada beat them 3.22 to 2.31. The shots on goal, Canada had the advantage there as well. And the hits, there were a combined 41 hits in this game, and a lot of the narratives coming into this tournament were that the players weren't going to care, it was going to be a glorified all-star game, and we saw in the first 10 minutes of this game that all of those were completely wrong. These players care. You put their country on their jersey and they're going to go all out, and this was a great game to kick off the tournament. 4-3 overtime win for Canada. Now, before we get into Saturday's game against the US, I first want to dive into this power play that we saw scored just a minute into the game against Sweden. One of the biggest advantages coming into the tournament was going to be Canada's power play, and we saw it on full display right away. So you've got Connor McDavid on the wall, Sidney Crosby down below the net, Nathan MacKinnon on the other side, Sam Reinhart in the bumper pop position in the middle, and then Cale Makar not pictured here, but he is the point man on this power play. And it was a really quick strike for Canada's power play. McDavid went down to Crosby. Crosby peeked over, threw a no-look behind the back pass to Nathan MacKinnon, who was wide open and gave Canada the 1-0 lead. And immediately, we saw that we have been robbed of best-on-best hockey for far too long. Seeing all of these uber-talented players on the top unit doing special things for Canada was a great sight. We saw it super early, and Canada and the Bell Center got off to a great start in this game with their best players coming to play. That brings us to Saturday night, where I'm going to kind of work backwards with this game. I'm going to talk about the first 9 seconds and the fights later on, but simply put, this was one of the best hockey games I've ever watched in my entire life, and the team I was cheering for didn't even win. It was the US taking home a 3-1 victory. Jake Gensel with 2 goals, and he got the empty netter in this one. It was 2-1 with an empty net goal, so a very, very close game. The Bell Center was absolutely rocking. Connor McDavid scored a beautiful goal to kick off the scoring, and the roof just exploded off the building. There was so much buzz around this game, and it delivered, which didn't even think was possible. The expectations were so high, and somehow it still delivered. The shots on goal were pretty even. The expected goals were pretty even. The high danger chances were even. No power play goals in this one. This was just a game full of incredibly talented players that had a playoff atmosphere, and it delivered. And since we are getting the rematch on Thursday night in the championship game, everyone is ready for round 2 between these two teams. It's going to be absolutely incredible because round 1 on Saturday night lived up to the hype. So one of the reasons why this game is getting so much national attention, maybe outside of the hockey community even, is because of the way the first 9 seconds went. Brandon Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk dropped the gloves off the opening faceoff. The very next faceoff, Sam Bennett and Brady Tkachuk fought, so both Tkachuk brothers fought for the US. And then 9 seconds later, Colton Parayko and JT Miller fought, sending Bell Center into a frenzy. Like I said, it was a playoff atmosphere, playoff style of game on the ice, and these 3 fights in the first 9 seconds only added to both of those things, truly adding to that playoff atmosphere. And we knew from this point forward, we were in for a fantastic game. And like I said earlier, it absolutely lived up to the hype. One last note on this game is that Cale Makar was expected to play through an illness, but then warm-ups began and he was not out there. So he was ruled out. Thomas Harley, a Dallas Stars defenseman, was put into the lineup after being added to Canada's roster on Friday. They've had a few defensive injuries, but this had major implications on the game. Cale Makar, one of the best defensemen, if not the best defenseman in the world. Without him, Canada's blue line struggled to move the puck up the ice. And if you're looking for a spot that Canada maybe will gain an advantage over the US in Thursday's championship game, getting Cale Makar back is obviously a huge deal. He returned on Monday in the game against Finland. Let's talk about that now. Before we dive into the Finland game, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you hit the like button down below, hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss all the great content we are putting out on the WST channel going forward. Let's dive into the final game of Canada's round robin, a 5-3 win over Finland. The tournament shifted to Boston for a winner-go-home Game 7 type of game for Team Canada, and they delivered, defeating Finland 5-3. There were some tense moments in this game. Canada went up 4-0 as early as the second period and clearly let off the gas in the third, and Finland, with their goalie pulled, scored 3 goals to make it 4-3, but then Sidney Crosby scored into the empty netter to give Canada a 5-3 win, and it was their best players who dominated this game. Nathan MacKinnon had 2 goals, Sidney Crosby had the empty netter, Connor McDavid opened the scoring as well, so Canada's best players came to play. Cale Makar was back in the lineup and clearly noticeable as well, and this punched Canada's ticket to the championship game on Thursday night, a massive win on Monday afternoon, setting up the rematch between Canada and the US. Canada's top offensive players being their main contributors in this win over Finland was yet another reminder of how awesome it was to get best on best hockey back, even though it was only 4 nations. Seeing Nathan MacKinnon and Sidney Crosby, the Nova Scotia boys, hugging after goals, playing on the same line, seeing Cale Makar and Josh Morrissey on the same blue line, Connor McDavid doing his thing in a Team Canada jersey. This was a fantastic idea from the NHL. The players clearly cared, and it was much better than an all-star game. And as we close out the round robin and set up an incredible game on Thursday between Canada and the US, it's safe to say that this tournament was an absolute win for the NHL. And that sets up the rematch. Canada and the US will battle it out for the Four Nations Cup on Thursday night. I am beyond excited for this game. Obviously, Canada had the home ice advantage on Saturday at the Bell Center. This one is played at the TD Garden in Boston, so the Americans will have the home ice advantage for this final matchup. But a big advantage for Canada is getting Cale Makar back. I mentioned it earlier. They missed him dearly in that Saturday night matchup, really struggled to move the puck up to their talented forwards, so getting him back will be a massive plus. The goaltending advantage is expected to be Jordan Binnington for Canada. He's played all 3 games, and Connor Hellebuyck for the US. He only played the first 2 games of the tournament, but stopped 25 of 26 in that Saturday night game and played extremely well in it, so he should be the starter for the US. Should be an incredible game. Enjoy it, everyone. We've been waiting forever for games like this, high stakes between Canada and the US, and I think it will deliver. That's going to do it for this Team Canada Four Nations recap video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button down below. Enjoy the game on Thursday night between Canada and the US. Should be an incredible one, as always, when those 2 teams meet. And I'll be back on Monday for another edition of Winnipeg Jets Weekly, breaking down that Four Nations final and the Winnipeg Jets resuming their regular season on Saturday night, February 22nd against the St. Louis Blues. So I'll be back Monday breaking down both of those games. Enjoy them this week, and I'll see you next Monday. Have a great week, everyone.